Hey guys, so it's an interesting video on Wild Rift. So we're back with a Jinx supplementary guide. And now, I know there was no video yesterday. Now, we had daily uploads basically from, I believe it was 2nd or 3rd April all the way through to 2nd or 3rd May. So we had one full month of daily uploads, which was a pretty huge achievement for me. And also, except, I should say, those 2 days that I fell sick. So, not a full month, unfortunately, but almost as good as a full month, or a full month in my eyes. So anyways, today we're bringing you guys a Jinx supplementary guide. Now, we already know what the Jinx main build is, which I covered in the complete guide, which I did, I think, a couple of weeks ago. I think Jinx was actually one of the first champions I actually covered, so might even be almost a month ago. So, basically, in this build, it's sort of a mixture between her old and her new build. Basically, you substitute the rapid fire cannon for a Runaan's Hurricane instead. So this sort of gives you the best of both worlds. You have the early game power spike of the Stormraizer, you have the 2-item power spike of Stormraizer plus Infinity Edge, and then you also get the AoE from the Runaan's Hurricane. Now, of course, the AoE from the Runaan's Hurricane is going to be very, very useful against teams that especially like to group up, which is what they did in this particular gameplay. But I will put it out there that overall, I feel, regardless of the matchup, I feel that the rapid fire cannon build is better in basically every single scenario. But either way, this Runaan's Hurricane build is pretty viable as well. So obviously, after you go for Moral Reminder for the Grievous Wounds, I also just got buffed pretty recently, and then the GA for the Revive, because in solo queue you can't rely on your support or your team to keep you alive, and I think that Revive is really important. Now, if your GA is down, you can of course replace it with something like a Bloodthirster for lifesteal, a rapid fire cannon for more range and damage, or basically any other crit item, or even a Maw of Malmortius if you're up against heavy magic damage. For runes, Conqueror, obviously, because we stack it up really easily. Hunter Vampirism for the healing. Hunter Titan for the tenacity, or if you need, you can also go for Bone Plating for anti-burst. And you can go for the Sweet Tooth for the extra gold, health, and sustain, mana sustain in the lane. Or you can also opt for a mana flow ban. Kinda depends on how hard your laning matchup is. In the laning matchup in the gameplay, I was up against a Caitlyn, which was a relatively difficult matchup if she continuously auto-attacked me, so I did take the Sweet Tooth. So yeah, it's pretty much it. Pretty simple explanation for the build. Now we can move on to talking about the gameplay. Alright, so here we can discuss the gameplay. Now, honestly, I feel the best part about this build is the fact that in your main build and in the Runaan's Hurricane build, you actually go for the same starting 2 items, being the Infinity Edge as well as the Stormraizer. Of course, Stormraizer first, then Infinity Edge, but you guys get the point. So your first 2 items are the same. So really, when you get to your 3rd item, you can sort of decide whether you want to go for the Runaan's Hurricane or you want to go for the rapid fire cannon. Now, as for me, after this match onward, after testing the Runaan's Hurricane, actually this is the first match and only match I'll be using Runaan's Hurricane, because I really feel that for my personal playstyle, I prefer the rapid fire cannon. I like, the real thing I like about the rapid fire cannon is 2 things. Firstly, you get that extra range, and that extra range actually gives you a lot of safety. And secondly, you stack up your energized passive with the Stormraizer as well, which not only gives you extra damage, but gives you a long range slow as well. And I feel that long range slow actually helps you to chase down enemies really well, and also kite them really well. And just having the more single target build allows you to get kills and resets more easily compared to the AoE build where you're blasting everybody but you're not doing a lot of damage to one single target. So for me personally, I just prefer the single target build with the rapid fire cannon. But I can definitely see people preferring this build, or this build just being better in certain matches. Like, honestly, I feel objectively in this matchup, this build was better because the enemy team kept grouping up as 5 or 4 non-stop, and the value I got from the AoE, from the Wind's Fury passive of the Runaan's Hurricane was a whole lot. But I just really don't like this playstyle of having AoE damage compared to single target damage for Jinx. But either way, I'm not trying to blast the build. I am saying that this build has a place and it is really good in its own ways. But I would say it's a personal preference as well as a situational kind of thing, because there's no harm in actually going for the single target build even if the enemy team is always grouping up, because you still get AoE from your rocket itself. just that you get less compared to if you build Runaan's Hurricane. Alright, so anyways, enough babbling on about the build. Now we can focus a lot more on the gameplay. So here, if you guys have noticed at the start of the match, the enemy lane isn't too aggressive because it's a Lulu with a Caitlyn. So Caitlyn can be aggressive, but Lulu is not the most aggressive support. All she can really do is to buff the Caitlyn. But Caitlyn hasn't been too aggressive so far. As you guys can see, we're generally higher health than her throughout the lane, which is always a good place to be, and we're trading relatively alright in the sense that, you know, we're not like lower than the Caitlyn at any time, so we're getting off good trades. We're basically hitting all of our Ws throughout the match, which is the main thing that's keeping our trades better. Now the issue is Sona bore the brunt of the damage, so overall I think as a 2v2 lane we're trading about equal. I did about a third of the health of each of them, and Sona took about more than a third health total, but not quite like half health. So maybe like 3/8 worth of health, kind of like that. So anyways, here it basically is a very tame laning phase. Like, they aren't playing particularly aggressive. As a Jinx Sona, we aren't particularly aggressive either. Now here is when the action begins. Graves has been hiding in that bush for God knows how long, and jumped on me the instant I got too close. Xin Zhao comes in for the gank, so it's a 3v3 here, but clearly it's not gonna work out too well for our team. Xin Zhao still continues to go in. Sona gets polymorphed, and Xin Zhao gets ulted and by the Caitlyn, and he just dies. So not really the best in the world. I would say that both teams are pretty strange in the sense that, for example, we have a Xin Zhao and a Pantheon who's very early game, but Jinx and Sona are really late game. And on the enemy team, by the way, look at this here. Boom, snipe from the base. You know, as I always say, if you're a Jinx, you gotta pay attention to the map and where you can get sniped. So I got a basically free kill of that snipe. But yeah, so their team, they have like Lulu, Graves, and Caitlyn, who are all very late game, but Caitlyn has a strong early game as well. Zed and Set are kind of just okay throughout the game. Probably Zed's more early to mid game. Either way, so both teams sort of have a mixture of early and late game. But I would say that overall in late game, I do believe my team should have the advantage because of the Sona. Because Sona gets really insane in the late game. All Sona has to do is to survive the early game, get to like 3 items or so, and she should be golden. So that is kind of the main goal, is to get Sona to reach 3 items, and she should be able to sustain me especially, but also the rest of my team, for us to just deal damage to the enemy team. Alright, so here, as we said again, the laning phase is really very tame. Nothing too much happening. It's a really boring laning phase. I tried to get off another snipe onto the Graves, but unfortunately Lulu was on the roam down and managed to accidentally body block it for him. So me and Sona are left in the lane. Now honestly, Sona, when Sona roams, she can't really do too much, and in the early game especially, she can really only contribute her ultimate because her healing and her buffs are not the most significant in the early game. Maybe the pseudo exhaust of her passive with her E. So yeah, here we're left in a 2v1 versus the Caitlyn. So here of course we can be a little bit more aggressive because she is alone. We can see Lulu and Zed actually roaming up from the mid lane, so we do have to be a little bit cautious. Caitlyn's setting up the traps, but we're going to try to force a plate if possible. They're luckily roaming toward the dragon. Graves actually shows up to the picture, and they actually end up roaming down to the Rift Herald. So Graves is actually with us here in the top lane while his team is contesting the Rift Herald against my team. Now thankfully for their team, they actually managed to kill my teammates, including my jungler. So they do actually manage to steal the Rift Herald without having their jungler there, which is really kind of a really lucky play for them, I guess you could say, because contesting an objective without a jungle is normally not the best idea, but in this case it did really work out for them. Graves is still here trying to defend the lane. Here I'm actually just trying to get the second tower plate, but Graves is making it very difficult for me, as he should. And yeah, so basically as a Jinx, it's still in the early game. Like, unless you're against someone with low range and who can't really fight you, someone like a Vayne, then maybe it'll be a good idea to play a bit more aggressive. But in this lane, I'm against a Caitlyn, so I'm playing really safe. As you can see, teamfight breaks out of nowhere, and I'm just staying really far away, firing down on the backline. I do get the kill onto Set of the ultimate, get another kill onto the Caitlyn, but unfortunately Zed does get onto me and I die. Really hard for me to deal with characters, especially the Zed. Of course, in the meanwhile, Jace, who wasn't in the team fight, does actually get the first tower, so at least we did trade for something, but the enemy team is going to be getting the dragon. So overall, the enemy team gets a dragon, a herald, and they're heralding at top, which actually should be giving them the top tower, but the top tower is at full health, so I don't believe they're actually going to get the top tower because they didn't really make the best use of their herald. But yeah, overall, I think my team kind of lost out on the overall trade across the map. But it's not all bad. We do have a 3-1 start, so we already have the Gluttonous Greaves, we already have the Stormraizer, and we do have another BF sword. So at this point, we should be doing decent enough damage. But yes, as I say, in Jinx in the early game, before you reach like 2 or 3 items, you do want to play relatively safe, unless you're in a matchup that you can bully with the rockets. Now, those matchups are something like Kai'Sa, Vayne, like those really short-range ADCs. Even some other champions can somewhat be bullied by your rockets. Even someone like a Misfortune, if you dodge her Q or she already expended her Q, you can actually walk up and auto-attack her with the rockets and something like that. Or Ashe, after she used her W, you can just walk up and auto-attack her with the rocket. So a lot of matchups you can bully as a Jinx, honestly, but Caitlyn is one of those matchups that you really can't. So here you can just see how I'm just essentially just playing very, very safe and just not doing anything too overly aggressive. Now here another fight is going to break out. It's a pretty messy one because it's sort of my team is sort of coming in from both the top lane and the mid lane river as well. So I'm sort of just trying to navigate the fight. I finally get a kill onto the Zed to get the reset. Caitlyn realizes I'm excited and she just goes away. I do manage to get the auto onto Lulu for Xin Zhao to get the kill. Graves flashes over and no one has a ward to put down apparently to chase the Graves. So Jace just goes in by himself 2v1 against the Graves and the Caitlyn, who are not actually that low. And here I'm going by the safe way. I didn't really want to fight, but Xin Zhao actually goes in for the fight, so I decide to walk up and I realized, okay, he's dead already. So here I actually managed to rocket the Caitlyn twice. I did think I could get the kill on her, but she does actually get off a heal and barely manages to kill me, which was very, very unfortunate. I do believe her Triumph also procced, so really, really unfortunate situation for me. Caitlyn 5-1 and 4 now. She's very fed as well. She actually chose to start with a IE into a Runaan's Hurricane instead of going for a Stormraizer, which is pretty strange. The Stormraizer is the main item that actually makes Caitlyn strong at the moment. So going for this sort of build, it means that Caitlyn is actually a little bit weaker than what she should be at this point in the game. Either way, my team is sort of in a skirmish in the middle lane. I've just respawned, so I'm going to just... I'm not going to rotate over because basically the fight is kind of over. I was just deciding whether I should go over or not. I decide against it. I decide to go for the top wave instead, or to possibly push out top tower. Now the issue is that the enemy bot lane decided to also go to, or I should say the enemy top lane in this match also decided to go there. So I don't have a tower anymore, so I do have to, of course, play safe and just wait near my tower to get the CS. Alright, so if you guys notice so far, what have we really accomplished in this game? So far, all we've done is play safe and farm, basically doing Jinx things. And our 4 kills came from 2 huge team fights, where we basically just stayed in the back line and just fired away our rockets as best as we can. So basically, this is how you want to play Jinx in the laning phase against a aggressive matchup, and also just in the game in general. You always want to stay safe in the backline, etc. So now they've actually left me alone to take the top tower, so I will be doing that, just taking the top tower. I see some people rotating up already, and my team is not really engaged against a fight with them, so I don't know if they're coming up here. So instead, I'm just going to quickly recall, pick up my Zhonya's Hourglass. I do have my 2 item power spike together with Zhonya's as well as a glove, so I'm doing pretty fine. Now Pantheon actually ults in, manages to shut down the Caitlyn, who is out of position and not really fully with her team. So really nice pick off by the Pantheon there. And yeah, so this allows us to translate over to the Cloud Dragon. Set is waiting in the bush, but finds himself in a 1v5, so he's gone. Probably dies to the red buff from the Xin Zhao. And here Graves gets caught as well, and I do pick up the shutdown onto the Graves. So 3 members dead on the enemy team. Basically gives us a free Cloud Dragon, which, as you guys know, is my favorite dragon. Zed tries something funny. I zap him for his efforts, and he's not coming anywhere near the Cloud Dragon, but here we do indeed get the Cloud Dragon. And Xin Zhao's smite was actually down, so that dragon is actually pretty stealable for the Zed. So that was a little bit of a sticky situation, although the Zed didn't notice it himself. So here, you know, as we always do in our downtime, we're gonna farm wherever we can. In this case, it's the red side jungle. So here I'm just going to take the Raptors. We're gonna take the red buff as well because we're 5, 2, and 4. We're doing pretty well. Our Xin Zhao is 2 and 5, the literal opposite of our score, and thankfully he does give over the red buff. So here we got double buffs. We're doing pretty good. We're just gonna go around just basically farming. I remember at this point in the game I was like a few hundred gold away from getting Runaan's Hurricane. So I was literally trying to farm anything I could to try to get my Runaan's Hurricane before the next fight. So with this wave, this should give me just enough gold to get myself the Runaan's Hurricane, and I think I do back right after this wave. Yep, there we go. I do back right after this wave to pick up my Runaan's Hurricane. Alright, here we go, so Runaan's Hurricane. Now in this match, I actually spontaneously decided to go for the Runaan's Hurricane, because in those two fights where we pretty much got all the kills, if you guys noticed, their enemy team was always sticking together, and we are having a lot of like 5v5 team fights around objectives in this particular game. Now, not every game will be like that, because some games the top laners don't rotate. You know, some games we trade objectives, that sort of thing. So this particular game seems that there are a lot of 5v5 team fights. So I was thinking it was the perfect time to go for that Runaan's Hurricane build, which I do think was quite successful in this match, but as I said, personal preference, I don't quite like it. So here, looks like another kind of 5v5 fight is kind of breaking out here. So I'm just staying in the backline, just blasting whoever I can. Zed ults the Xin Zhao actually, who does actually survive. So no Zed ult, so I am a little bit safer because Zed doesn't have his ult for me anymore. Here we're just clearing the lane, sort of trying to force down the mid lane, because we know the enemy team is relatively low, so we are able to sort of just force down the mid lane. As you guys can see here, me and Sona, we're going for the mid lane tower. I get a reset off the tower. I actually exhaust the wrong target. I exhausted the Lulu instead of the set. Either way, I'm off with my machine gun. We both flashed away from each other, and here I'm on the chase for the Caitlyn. She flashes away from my Zap, unfortunately. And here I'm just trying to hit my rockets into whoever I can. Get a hit onto the Caitlyn, 2 hits onto the Caitlyn. Chompers go out, but I do run out of mana, so I don't quite have mana to cast rocket anymore. So unfortunately, because of that, I do have to back off. Because you know, you need that rocket for the extra range to attack. You don't want to use the machine gun because it's not very safe. So since we don't have the rocket anymore and the fight isn't really continuing, we're just gonna back, and we're just gonna get ourselves the Executioner's Calling, because of course Lulu does have a decent amount of healing with that Harmonic Echo, and there's just a decent amount of healing across the board with the Graves as well. So here, red buff is back up, ready on spawn to take that red buff. Yeah, so as you guys can see, this is not the most exciting game. We're 5, 2, and 5, which wouldn't really seem like it just based on how little fights there were. But some games are like that. Of course, they're a little bit more on the boring side, a little bit more of a slow-paced game, and they're only like huge team fights when they're fighting over objectives, be that a Dragon Herald or a tower. But yeah, so here I'm just gonna go around farming. Nothing is really happening. I see a fight happening at the top lane. Caitlyn already got picked off. I rocket onto the Graves to get the assist, and we can just go ahead and push down top, because we see Lulu and we see Zed in the mid lane, so it's relatively safe for us to push down top. Zed is getting distracted, I believe it's by the Jace, and Lulu is also getting distracted by the Xin Zhao. So here we can at least get one tower for free, which we do, and after that they're not so distracted anymore, so we're going to have to sort of escape. Right, so someone is channeling TP. It is actually the Zed. So Zed actually got himself a TP and tried to TP back to the fight. But here there pretty much isn't really a fight to be had. Zed actually goes W's in to clear the minions. I do feel relatively safe to just blast him because he has no W. He does have ultimate, but without his W he's not going to be able to do too much combo damage as compared to when he has. So here Pantheon actually ults in as well, but doesn't really get too much out of it. And here obviously we see there's going to be another like more or less a 5v5 team fight around the Infernal Dragon. So here I'm just staying at the back. Here in goes the Xin Zhao with the engage. Zed does ult him, and he but ulting Xin Zhao when Xin Zhao has his ult is not the best idea, because you're not going to really get much damage onto him. So Zed kind of wastes his ult there, which is really good for us yet again. Now no one actually dies in this fight, but the fight was good enough for my team that we actually managed to zone the enemy team away from the dragon because they don't want to fight us. at the dragon. Here you really see the value of Sona just healing up the whole team, just giving us the health and the sustain, just to keep ourselves topped up in terms of health. Of course, in the fight itself, the Q from Sona really helpful as well. So here I find myself the Caitlyn. I get the kill on the Caitlyn, and we're trying to get the reset to translate it to another kill or two, but unfortunately they all run away. Now here Zed is 1 HP, he can't quite defend the tower. I ult in front of him because I thought he was going to run back, but he actually just stays still and just doesn't move a muscle. So kind of mind games on that one. So here in comes the Graves, we exhaust him, Sona ults him and he dies. Zed runs out of the tower to try to help the Graves and actually just runs straight into his own death. So kind of not really the best communication on the enemy team there. Unfortunately they both die. So here we can pretty much pick up a free inhibitor. Only Lulu is left alive and Lulu is actually recalling. I think Set just respawned, not sure if he was always there, but oh yeah, actually I think he was always there, but Set and Lulu can't do too much to me. I almost straight up kill the Set, but unfortunately he does make it back to the fountain in time. And the entire rest of the enemy team is starting to respawn, so we gotta be a bit cautious. We're seeing what we can get from this tier 2 tower. Unfortunately, Sona eats the Caitlyn ultimate and does die. I could have blocked it on that one, but I had a little bit too slow of a reaction to actually do anything about it. So unfortunately that one was my bad. So I'm just going to recall and complete my Runaan's Hurricane. And I'm also going to pick up a BF sword to build towards my Guardian Angel, which I believe I barely don't have enough gold to afford. Alright, so here the enemy team actually decided to go for Baron with the Sona dead. Now I will say that's not the worst decision in the world, because Sona is actually a very huge part of our team comp now that we've reached pretty much the late game. Sona already has 3 completed items, so Sona is really doing a ton of work for my team. Here I'm pinging to attack the Baron because you know, we know that they're on it. We don't actually have a war on it. I let Xin Zhao go in and absorb some damage there. I try to ult to hit somebody, but don't quite hit anybody. Here I see it's really low. Xin Zhao actually gets the smite. Here I'm flashing in to join the fight. Really aggressive flash by me. Not always the best idea, but here it was gonna take way too long to run around the walls of the Baron pit to actually get to the fight. So I had to actually flash over to join the fight and help my team, and we do get a triple kill off that, which basically means that we have won the game. So here we're gonna use mid lane and we're just going to push in the wave, and that should be the end of the game. Alright, so there we have it, the victory with the Runaan's Hurricane Jinx. So thank you guys for watching the video. I'll leave you guys with the stats as usual. Thank you for watching and goodbye.